Today on Hampton Roads Business Weekly, it's all about company morale.
From having fun at the office to cultivating your employees' passion.
We have tips on how to have a brighter, more productive workplace. Hampton Roads Business Weekly starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Hampton Roads Business Weekly. I'm Zach Miller.
And I'm Cheryl Tan. All this month, we are focusing on company morale.
I spoke with Mary Jo Bouchard, an organizational consultant and Regent University alum, on how business owners can up morale by nourishing their employees' passion. We've talked a lot about passion and how it's trying to find what people's passion is. Well, how can you actually find out what someone's passion is in a different kind of phase of where you're finding them? Maybe it's in the resume stage, maybe you've hired them, but you're trying to figure out, how do you actually figure out what someone's passion is?
It's such a good question, and because it's not asked very often, sometimes when you just come out and ask people, they don't even know how to answer it themselves. They've been so trained to just do go. So I think there is really something to setting out to developing a lens to find and identify people's passion. It's one of the things that I like doing, it's kind of like being a detective, trying to figure out what's important to them. Sometimes it can be as simple as, in certain workplaces, tell me about your tattoo, tell me the story behind that, or I noticed that you always wear this brooch or this pin, or tell me the story behind this artwork that's on your those types of things. So you might not be saying, so what's your passion?
Right.
But what are you passionate about?
That's unique to them that no one else
has. Exactly.
And go from there.
And there's got to be a story, especially if it's not beautiful, or maybe it is exceptionally beautiful and you're wondering why they would bring it to work with them, So usually people will surround themselves with things that are reminding them of what is important to them. So if we look closely enough, we can find passion, little hints about passion, and then we have to go on an expedition and find out what people are willing to open up. Not everybody is going to open up at the beginning. So then sometimes you have to watch people and find out what they're passionate about by the things that they do with greater energy, and the things that they do that they that they look less afraid to try. And sometimes, especially if you're working with younger people that haven't ever been out there, and they might think they like everything, or they don't know, they just know they're good at this thing. So you might be even on a quest to help them find their passion. And so asking those types of questions and what's the significance about that, and those types of things can actually help them to start becoming more aware of their passion.
So once someone finds out what that passion is, let's say I'm a Boston Red Sox fan and I like baseball. What do you do? What's that next step with that? Do you buy someone tickets to that thing? Is that something that could be good? Maybe you find them an autographed baseball. Like, what do you do once you know what that passion is, and how do you use it to help grow your business?
Good question. Now, obviously, there are certain things that mom and pops can't do that huge corporations can do.
Sure.
But there's things that we really like that we can be a fan of, but that is something a little bit different from finding a passion that will drive us to motivate us to get up and go to work, even if it's going to be a hard day. So there may be times for you to say, hey, yeah, I noticed that you are a Red Sox fan. I got this cup that says Red Sox on it, or whatever you can afford. And that will say, I thought of you. Or it matters to me that that I'm noticing that you have these interests. But to find somebody's real passion, oftentimes it's related to a relationship that they have with somebody, or a difficult experience that they are going through. Those oftentimes become their passions. If you see somebody that's walking through an illness, or they have a family member that's going through an illness, or they're afraid of failing in something, then you can turn that around and say, well, let's try to find the opportunity in this. And that can become a passion. So it's not necessarily just what somebody really likes, but something that you can see that flicker in their eye that makes them driven to be the best version of themselves. That's what you're looking for when you're saying you're looking for passion. And then you can say, to think to yourself, what do I have that can fire that can fill that up? Statistically, people will stay with someone who can answer that question, find a way to answer that question, even if somebody offers them a whole lot more money or tickets to the Red Sox.
You can live tweet with us right now at HR Biz Weekly. We have more Hampton Roads Business Weekly on the way, including why it's okay to fail. But first, the Millennial Minute.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Renee, and today we're going to be talking about social media and your engagement with customers.
It's really great to be on all these social networks, but even more important is having people find you. A great way to do that is to make sure you have what we call a link wheel. This means that all of your social networks connect to each other as much as possible, and all of them are listed on your website. This means everything is linking together, so everyone can find you if they want to.
Another great piece of advice that we give our clients is that we want to make sure that you don't only have a Facebook page or a Twitter, but that you're actively posting on it as well as engaging. So if we are on Handsome Biscuits Instagram and we comment and say that we love that biscuit, we want you to comment back saying that you're glad, because that's going to build that brand loyalty and get us coming back into your door.
And it's really hard for a lot of small businesses to know what to say or what to do on social media. So a great way to think about it is what we call the push versus pull strategy. So pushing means that you're just sending out a lot of information and not really interacting, kind of like we have a special today. But pulling means that you're giving them something fun to interact with, like comment on this photo, tell us what your favorite sandwich is. So it's really great to try to have a pull focus mindset when you're talking on your social networks.
And this is your
Millennial Minute.
Well, welcome back to Hampton Roads Business Weekly. So let's say you have a great new idea for your business, but what if it doesn't pan out? I spoke with Glenn Moriarty, founder of 7 Cups, an online emotional healing and wellness service. We talked about knowing when to give up on the idea and why a lot can be gained in failing. All right, Glenn, you started 7 Cups of Tea about 24 months ago. How did you come up with the idea?
So I was doing some research on ways that people behave offline that hadn't yet moved online. And I was trying to think of a problem. And my wife, who you know is a therapist, and she was listening to me about a problem I was having. And I felt immediately better, as I always do. And I thought, what do people do who don't have a therapist for a spouse? And it was like at that point I had this aha moment. This is the behavior that's offline, somebody talking to and being listened to, that hasn't yet moved online, and it's a real problem, so we should solve it so that at any point, if you're a person and you need support, you should be able to basically open up an app or go to our website and get support. And that was really the kind of the birth of the idea.
And if I remember correctly, what you originally made as your assumption was that people wanted to talk on the phone.
Yes.
And I remember actually having calls with you. The technology was flaky, and you thought I was messing with you.
Yes.
You weren't messing with you.
Yes.
It was just flaky. And so you had the assumption that people wanted to physically talk with people, but now it's really just text. And so how were you guys able to validate that that didn't work, but this other piece was?
So let me zoom back further. What's interesting about people seeking help is that when you think about our current mental health system, a person has to search for a therapist, make a phone call with that therapist, set up an appointment, go wait in an uncomfortable waiting room, meet with the therapist for an hour and a half.
Wait 3 weeks to get that.
Wait 3 weeks or longer.
Yeah.
Feel face to face like they might be being judged, then maybe come back for a second interview where they can really start to get stuff off their heart. So that's like 8 steps. So what we did was we took, and there's costs associated with that too. Right. So what we did is we made it free. We made it anonymous, so there's no stigma associated with it. We made it on demand, so it's instantaneous. And we made it convenient because it's an app or your computer. But still, even with that, we made it voice and messaging based. Well, it turns out voice is still very intimate. So like 99% of people preferred messaging over voice. So we just let voice go. So
what did you learn from reading a feature? So a lot of people will probably say, well, I spent all this time on it, I shouldn't get rid of it. How were you able to decide it's time, this isn't how people are doing it, and you use the data to make your decision?
Well, you really can't have any sacred cows. You have to just say, these are the assumptions we had. We spent money or time building this. And I mean, you do this constantly. Like, I wish you could get it right like immediately, but you have to discover the path, and the only way you discover the path is through trial and error. And like a whole bunch of stuff you try, like if you try 10 things, 9 aren't gonna work out. So you really have to say, like, sure, I'm gonna have a commitment to what the data tells me, and instead of having this privileged stance of my mind understands reality and how it should be.
Biggest learning experience over the last 2 years?
Really listening to the people who use your product. Like that, everybody says that. Listen to the people who use your product, but I mean, like, really listen. Like, yeah, really, and part of that's the data component that we talked about. But part of it is also really being engaged and allowing that, like, bad news. Nassim Taleb, who I really like, wrote the book Anti-Fragile, says that stress is information, failure is information.
Yeah.
And we don't like problems as information. We don't like problems, we don't like stress, we don't like failure, so that the impulse is to avoid that. But when you instead walk towards that, okay, this is a problem, a person's bringing a problem to me,
yep,
I'm going to, like, inside that problem is a little gold nugget, but you only get that gold nugget if you solve the problem.
Yep, so really analyze what they're saying in both kind of spheres of it, the good, the bad, and in between, and take that so that you can make something even better so
yes,
that people do love it. Glenn7cups.com. Appreciate the time and insights.
Thanks, Zach.
We really hire for culture. We're looking for people who are going to be a right fit for our organization, and when you get the culture piece right, everything falls into place.
Welcome back to Hampton Roads Business Weekly. I'm thrilled to introduce you to our Entrepreneur of the Week, Martin Joseph. He is the president and CEO of 360 IT Partners based in Virginia Beach. Martin, congratulations, and thanks for talking with us today.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl. I'm happy to be with you.
Martin, I love your startup story. So talk about how it is you became an entrepreneur.
It was pretty much by happenstance. I was working my way through Farm Fresh, and I just senior in high school, and knew I wanted to go to college, but was having some difficulty in getting some scholarships. I'd been playing football here at the Green Run High School, and only Division III schools were interested in me, and they didn't have scholarship money, so I had to figure out a way to put myself through school. So Farm Fresh was a great opportunity for me to do that, and I met this man who used to come in the store every night, and we got to know each other pretty well. And he had a small computer company. And I went out and visited him one day, and I said, hey, listen, if you take a chance on me, let me learn about computers while I work my way through college, I'd like to help you grow your business. So that's how it all began. And it was a great time because that's when the IBM Selectric typewriter was being replaced by the PC. And so, you know what, it was not difficult at that day and time to become a computer expert. And so, there was only so much you needed to know. So it was a great opportunity, and that man became my mentor. Worked for him for about 4 years, and learned as much as I possibly could. And then, had the opportunity to meet up with someone else as a partner, and we became business partners, and we started our own entity, and it worked out pretty well.
I love how you grabbed that opportunity and learned everything you could about it. And over the last 20 years as an entrepreneur, you've certainly grown your company to 35 employees. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What was your path to growth like from that beginning opportunity from Farm Fresh to now?
It was pretty bumpy in the beginning. When you're first starting out as an entrepreneur, you have got to be so conservative. If you're able to take a paycheck, you're lucky. I think that's some mistakes that some business owners tend to make early on, is that they own their own business, and of course they see this big influx of cash, and they start living the big life, and that's probably not the best thing to do.
Our focus for this show is on morale. How do you keep up morale? How do you share that culture with new people who come into your group?
Oh, it's perfect. So Justin, my new partner, when he moved his office from Chesapeake here to Virginia Beach, he bought every one of our employees Nerf guns, right? And so, every now and then you'll come by our office here, off of Witch Duck Road, and, there might be a Nerf gun skirmish that breaks out,
So
right?
take cover.
Take cover.
Okay.
Make sure your gun is loaded. You never know when a bullet's going to fly by your head. And you know what? We just have fun. We just have a great time. It's really gotten to the point where we've got our employees are coming to work on their day off just because they miss being around their other coworkers, right? And when you make that happen, God, it's just a great feeling, So, we're doing things like, we're doing company-sponsored lunches. We're taking employees to the baseball game with their families. We're having company picnics. We have just incredible holiday parties and just a lot of fun. People really just truly enjoy being around each other. And honestly, we really hire for culture. We're looking for people who are going to be a right fit for our organization. And when you get the culture piece right, everything falls into place. And it translates to the way we handle our customers. It translates in the way we treat our fellow coworkers. And, it's just a really cool formula.
That is a really cool formula. Any last words of advice for entrepreneurs who are looking to grow as your company has?
Yeah, I would say, one of the biggest things I've found was if you want to be successful, hang around successful people. These are going to be people who can kind of be your mentor or kind of help guide you. If you feel like you've got questions, maybe you can kind of ask what their experience is. But when you hang around successful people, you're going to raise your level of knowledge and just the way that you run your business. So that's certainly what I would certainly recommend.
Martin Joseph, thanks so much for some great advice and congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl.
Time now for the one thing entrepreneurs do that lead to their success. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Allen Hainsworth, the president of Atlantic Lift Systems based in Norfolk. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Cheryl.
Allen, let's talk about your business and how you got your start with it.
It's a family business, and I started back in 2000 with my dad. He had owned the company previously, and I'd never really ever imagined being in the company. I'd always wanted to do something else, and I got to a point I was in Atlanta, not exactly sure what that was. I'd made a career change, and he asked me to come back and brought me in, and it was ever since then I've been involved.
That's been since 2012.
Well, 2000.
Okay.
And then in 2012, he stepped aside and is not involved in the company anymore, unless we have a talk or something where I want to bounce an idea off his head.
So it started out as one type of company, although always dealing with industrial equipment. And since you've taken over, it's moved into a few different directions. How have you changed it?
We primarily were just an equipment reseller where we buy from the manufacturer, we represent the manufacturer, and we'd sell that and the equipment to our end users. And to diversify, we've gone into more of a rental type operation. We've increased our rental fleet. We have over 750 pieces of equipment in our rental fleet, and we use that within the construction business, within the industrial. We service a lot of the Navy in the area, and currently expanded into the Richmond market to service those same clients.
Right, so you're going into different directions, definitely. What are some of the challenges with growing your company and finding those different avenues for growth?
Our business is very capital intensive, and so it takes a great deal of capital to, one, buy the equipment, and then two, to maintain it. It's a lot of assets from people side, having very technical, finding the technical people to maintain that. So money is always an issue, and then finding the right people so you can support your client base.
Some pretty big challenges,
Yes.
money and people.
Yes.
So how do you come on the other side of that? How do you meet those challenges and succeed?
In the past year, I've brought on an operations manager to help me really focus on the people side, making sure that we are trained. We have our own in-house trainer who's responsible to make sure that we're keeping up with whatever the manufacturer offers. We do our own training on site that we develop programs for, and then we're we've started to try to recruit, from the technical schools and train them ourselves.
Right.
From a money standpoint, that's all about the relationships with your vendor or with your bank. And so I've spent a lot of time, talking to the banks and forming better relationships and letting them understand our business and being more open with them so that they don't have any surprises.
That's a great way to start. That's starting from the very beginning, kind of cultivating that relationship,
Yeah.
and then when you need them, they're there for you.
Very
and
much
happy to help
so.
you.
Very much so.
So the segment is called The One Thing. What is the one thing for you that has led to your success?
Probably initially it was with my dad. He gave me the training, the experience, but he basically gave me the freedom to go and make mistakes. And I've made plenty of them, but they've all been learning experiences. Now today, I'd probably say it's the people at my company. That success comes from them.
And congratulations on the success of your company.
Thank you.
Allen Hainsworth, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
That wraps up another edition of Hampton Roads Business Weekly. Like us on Facebook and Instagram at HR Business Weekly.
There, you will find segments from previous shows, plus some great behind-the-scenes pictures and videos. For Hampton Roads Business Weekly, I'm Zach Miller.
And I'm Cheryl Tan. We'll see you next week.
Hampton Roads Business Weekly, sponsored by Regent University and produced by ABC 13.